country, so I drink well water. I've been drinking it for years, and really, aside from this twitch, I'm fine, really I'm fine. However, I recently found out that my water is contaminated. It has hexavalent chromium. This is kind of a big deal, but it's probably not an environmental disaster. It's more likely something local in the ground, just naturally occurring. But I needed to find out about this. I needed to research this. We found out from Toastmasters there's a lot of wonderful resources. And I figured I'd start off with expert opinion. So I asked a few neighbors. And their consensus was they'd been drinking the water for 40 some odd years and nobody died of cancer yet. So you think that would be it. You think that would be the end of the story, but it's really just the beginning. I went straight to Google, asking, what is this nasty stuff and how do I get it out of my water? And it turns out that you can, in fact, get hexavalent chromium out of your water through a reverse osmosis filter that you hook up to your kitchen sink. Sounds pretty simple. So I went, still in online Googling, I reviewed everything, I looked at all the reviews, looked at all the specifications, compared all the prices, and I ordered a system. Well, what do I know about plumbing? Not a whole lot. Not deterred. When I got the system, I spread the parts all over the living room. Just to make sure I could identify each one. I watched the Google videos, but quickly realized that the parts that I had spread all over the floor were not the same parts in the video. Well, along the way, I had run into a Bureau of Labor statistic that said in the US, only 1.1% of plumbers are women. Was I going about this all wrong? Was I genetically predisposed to it? I don't know. Not to be deterred, I thoroughly studied the instructions, which I rarely do. And it said it would take about an hour and a half to get this system set up and plugged into the kitchen sink. Well, that's fine. I had a concert to go to that afternoon, gave me all morning to go through what I needed to do. Figured I could do it fine. So why get started? Well, not quite. What does every woman do before she starts a project? Cleans the house. Probably why women don't make particularly efficient plumbers. Okay, getting back to the material spread across the room. I'm convinced that the company wouldn't send me something that I couldn't put together. So I start to put it together. I dive in, I get a flashlight in my mouth, I've got a tool in one hand, parts in the other, and I wedge myself in under the kitchen sink, and I've got my head and neck up underneath there, and my back is down 5 inches lower on the kitchen floor, trying to find a comfortable spot. And I realize this is another reason why women are not plumbers. We're not that stupid. We're not. I started unfastening things, and I soon realized that where you turn the water off for this kitchen, where water goes in, and you have to unscrew that part, and that the piece I needed to put on was on the other side of that shut-off valve. So I had to shut the water off to the house. Seems like a good idea. I somehow convinced myself it was a good idea. So I go outside and I look for the shut-off valve for the house, and I start to shut it off, and there's this little voice in the back of my head screaming at me, this is not a good idea to shut the water off on the house. But I didn't listen. So I shut the water off, and I get back in, and I start to pull everything apart, and it all comes apart. And I am shouting now, no! I've got a bare copper pipe sticking out of the wall. Everything's out. What do you do with that? So this is where the first nap comes in. After staring at the ceiling, I have a renewed sense of purpose. I'm ready. I'm going to do it. I head off to YouTube to figure out, what do I do with a bare copper pipe coming out of the wall? And I learn a new word, and I learn about a new word, it's ferro. And it's this piece of thing. Now see, you might think that this is actually a wedding ring from my husband who doesn't know the ring size of my finger. But it is in fact a ferro. This is a piece of metal that defies the laws of physics and actually will seal metal on metal and actually hold water so that it doesn't spray all over the place. So I put this together and I fasten everything down, turn the water back on, leaks everywhere. I'm not convinced. But I go ahead and try it again. This time I use plumber's tape. Wrap it all up with plumber's tape, screw everything back down really tight, turn everything back on, water leaking everywhere. Now I don't know what to do, another nap. But then, it's afternoon, there's a knock on the door. Oh my God, I'm going to a concert. I had no idea, I completely had forgotten. My friend is there. I survey the living room. It's an absolute disaster with all the parts still laid out. And I'm ready to tell her I can't do it, I can't go. But I just shrug and say, what the heck, life's too short. So we go off to the concert, and I've got this black cloud over my head. And I'm just really trying to shake it, and okay, I'm gonna have a good time. And I stop and I look around, and I go, wow, you know, this is a pretty down-to-earth group. I bet there's somebody here that could help me. And I spot this guy, long white beard, just rode up on a Harley. Don't worry, I didn't take him home. I grabbed a beer, and I went over and talked to him, and I subtly brought up the subject of plumbing. And lo and behold, this guy was the maintenance guy for the city of Sonoma. He knew exactly what I had to do. And he did. Talked me through, I still didn't bring him home. He talked me through it. I went home, I put it all back together. This thing is a compression fitting. If you tighten it down just right, it does seal the pipe and it does seal the water. Everything worked out perfectly. So with a little bit of research, you can do anything. Take that, hexavalent chromium.